So let's talk outsourcing, opportunity costs, freedom, and performing in the two highest levels of value. And I'm going to try and do all of that in 5 minutes with you. And so if you know me and you know me closely, I am obsessed with outsourcing. I feel like the first time I even had the epiphany that was possible was picking up the 4-hour work week, 15 years ago or so. I don't remember. It's been a long time. And so I try to outsource everything because I am trying to buy back my time, right? Time is a commodity that none of us gets back. And so when someone wastes our time, it's a big deal, right? And so, but oftentimes we are the ones that are wasting our time because we are holding on to things that we should not be doing, right? I talk a lot about that in my Genius Jam framework of like getting rid of the things that are in your zone of low return. You get little to no return doing the things in those boxes, right? And so for many of us, for whatever reason, we have been told that we're supposed to do all the things and excel at all the things. And then you look up and you're like, well, how is this person getting X, Y, and Z done? Yeah, more than likely, their 24 hours is nowhere near the same as your 24 hours because they're leveraging the 24 hours of other people, right? You leverage the 24 hours of just one person. Now you have 48 hours to work with, right? Imagine if you are leveraging the 24 hours of 10 people or 20 people as you build your team. And so I think on one part, people think that outsourcing is much more expensive than it actually is. And I think in this gig economy, you would just be so surprised of how much more you can get done or how much freedom that you can have to really be able to have time to just think, come up with the big ideas, come up with the plan, the execution, the strategy on how you're going to do things. And so I try and outsource everything. I've outsourced cleaning. I've outsourced laundry when I need to. I've outsourced babysitting. I've outsourced tutoring. I've outsourced food. We moved away from that, but we're going to get back to that. But anything that I could possibly help me buy back more time or be more efficient is what I do, right? My friends do it. I'm on a group chat with other people that do it. And why? Because of the opportunity cost, right? And so years ago, I will never forget this. This was a pivotal point for me, not only just reading Tim Ferriss's book and learning about VAs, right, virtual assistants, but then also I had a really big proposal that I needed to write. And for whatever reason, I was doing every other thing but that thing. And I end up losing a contract, and I want to say the contract was like for $50,000 or $60,000 because I should have outsourced it, right? I could have voice noted it. I could have sent it to someone to write it up, another person to put it into a really nice little deck or whatever. And for whatever reason, I didn't do it. I just kept procrastinating. And I was thinking about, well, it's going to cost me however many dollars in order to get this done with someone else, and I could just do it myself. And so the opportunity cost, the loss, opportunity loss, really, there's the loss and then there's the cost, was the $100 or $200 that it would have taken me to outsource it so that it was done on time, it was done professionally, and I could focus on all these other things that I had to do, as opposed to losing a $60,000 contract, $200 versus $60,000, and me not being the bottleneck, right? And so that becomes the opportunity lost and then the opportunity cost. So let's talk about what opportunity cost is just a little bit, right? And so according to one definition, the benefit that a person could have received but gave up to take another course of action is the opportunity cost. And so you could have outsourced. In this case, the opportunity cost is the profit that I would have made if I'd outsourced a job instead of trying to do it myself and ultimately missing the deadline and missing out, right? And so the cost is the difference between a $200 cost and a $60,000 opportunity. And so how are you losing out every single day because you are not outsourcing to free yourself to be able to work in the highest levels of value, imagination, and communication because you feel like you need to hold on to everything yourself? So the real question, and to continue the conversation part 2, is asking yourself continuously when you have to make decisions, not just what does it cost me, but what do I gain? And so a mentor of mine always says, like, poor people know the cost of everything and the value of nothing. And so I'm asking you it in a different way, right? So what does it cost me is usually the question that we're always asking ourselves. It's the conversation that I have with a friend all the time who's always this, right? Like, it's going to cost X, Y, and Z. But I'm like, but what do you gain? And so let's talk about that, because the gain most times is much, much greater than what the actual cost is. And so you always have to do kind of like this cost benefit analysis personally. And then of course in your career, in your business as well. But I want you to work on focusing on the reframe of saying it's going to cost me this, as opposed to, well, what do I gain? And for some people, it's the shame that comes, or not shame, but like there's a guilt that comes with outsourcing, right? Especially for women. And I used to host these conversations on Clubhouse. I really should bring them back. Just about outsourcing. And we would spend so much time, because I would want to just know what else are other people outsourcing so I can like pick up on some more things. And we would actually spend so much time talking about the shame and the guilt of other people on outsourcing certain things, especially from a gender perspective, right? And I felt that in the very beginning. So I wouldn't tell anybody, like, this is my life and I need these things in order to show up as my whole self as the CEO of a company, to show up as my whole self as a mother of 2 kids, to show up as my whole self as a wife. And I remember the first time I outsourced cleaning, because it became the thing that my husband and I were arguing about, that wasn't the thing that we were arguing about, if that makes any sense, right? So we would like have these little tit for tats, and it was really about like, well, who is going to clean this stuff, right? Like the two of us are creating a mess, and there's an expectation that one of us is supposed to clean, although we both have full-time roles. Like, that doesn't work. And so when we realized that like we could budget and in a smart way and bring someone in at least once a month to just get our life back together. And it was like the moment leading up to it was like, oh, can we afford this? Should we do this? And then when you sit in your home that has been cleaned in a way that you could not clean, and you had that freedom to just sit down and relax and not be tired, whoosah, it changes like everything. And that moment where you outsource a project, especially if you outsource it overseas, and you go to sleep and you wake up at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning the next morning, and that project is done and landed in your inbox while you were sleeping, because the other side of the world, it was their business hours. It changes every single thing for you, right? When you were running an event and you could just show up to the event and just host or sit down and actually enjoy it, it changes every single thing for you. And I remember the first few years of Black Tech Week, I couldn't tell you one panel, one session, one talk that happened. I never saw any of it because we were running around like chickens with our heads cut off. And when we finally outsourced it to someone that was really capable, and I remember, I think, going to LA or going to the New York conference and literally just being able to sit in the audience, literally being able to just sit and actually eat the lunch that we paid for, literally being able to just actually have conversations that weren't like hasty and rushed because we had to go work on this thing in the behind the scenes. Like that level of freedom is absolutely priceless. And so how can you get more joy and freedom back into your life? It literally doesn't cost as much as you think it costs when you think about the value and the joy that you can start inserting back into your life when you let go and let other people serve you, and you support those businesses financially by paying them to do the thing that is in their zone of genius, because doing these things are in your zone of competence or incompetence. How can you commit to letting go and letting people love on you by being the service providers that they are, and freeing yourself of doing all the things that you should not be doing so that you can live in your zone of genius?